So, quick sharing today. Welcome to the tropics. So a lot of folks want to come to the tropics because they want to enjoy some soursop. The soursop is cheaper here. It's cheaper soursop here. And folks are drawn to the idea of an eternal vacation. Free fruit. There's free fruit everywhere, right? Never mind it's on other people's land. Land for pennies, right? You can get more bang for your buck. Also the tropics. It's being advertised the land of sex with no consequences, right? You know, hear people talking about protected sex or family planning over here. Same mindset from the States, but you're going to somehow bypass that in the tropics. And to top off the eternal vacation, the free fruit, the land for pennies, and the sex with no consequences, you don't have to pay for the decisions of your past. It's like a get-out-of-jail-free card, you know, when you come to the tropics. So it appears that this is the lure for many people of the tropics. In addition to folks looking for warmer climates and so on to live with. But what we don't hear people mentioning is research into the economy or the populations that are already residing in the areas where they are. And as I've shared before, this sharing is not for comedy purposes. I don't have any organizations for anybody to join. I don't have religions for anybody to join. I'm not a guru. I'm not anybody's teacher. I'm not leading anybody's community. And we are very quick to say that people should be leaders in the community. But in my humble observation, folks have to be willing to be really especially at this point in time, to be your own leader. I am not anyone's leader. You know, if anything, if you have small children, then you have a responsibility for those children. Yeah, but the tropics, the eternal vacation, free fruit, land for pennies, sex with no consequences, and not having to pay for the decisions of your past. That is the allure. So there are many people that think you can just get away with anything here. And every environment has their own set of laws, official and unofficial. So it is very ignorant and ignoring the obvious to think that we're going to hop somewhere across the world without having any frame of reference for the environment or the people that live there or the laws, and think that we can just be lawless and just come and set up shop. That's pretty much asking for trouble. What I've also observed is that, and this may sound, well, it sounds like whatever it is, but folks think they can get cheap wives in the tropics because there are younger women who will be impressed by trinkets, or if they're already struggling economically, they will be impressed and so-called grateful to be saved and grateful for a plate of food or, you know, some outfits. They'll be grateful to be taken care of. So this is why many people go to Asian countries or African countries or places where they can get a wife where they don't really have to, they're not going to be questioned really about their character or their morals or their consistency or even the irresponsible decisions that they have left behind. And it's harder to cross-reference someone when they're from another country or overseas, or if you're in the States and somebody's overseas, if they don't even have access to the internet, limited access to the internet, and it's a whole nother culture, and if they've been out of the States for years, it's harder to cross-reference people overseas. So people can get away with a lot in another country. So I think part of the allure of traveling overseas are cheap wives. And when I say cheap in particular for women, women and men have different sets of things that attract them to the tropics. But you don't really have to do much, because the standard for morals and character may be lower, because people may be impressed by your supposed degrees or education, or certifications or whatever, or just basically flaunting some money around. So if folks are more challenged economically, that may be very impressive and a step up. Again, this is part of the allure of cults for many of these young people. The other thing, people are looking for cheap land, right? Or, looking for a bargain without having to really put the time in for due diligence. Many people are trying to shortcut corners, and it's interesting as I'm coming here and I'm sharing information so that young people, young adults, mothers, single mothers, women wanting to be mothers, young people, young women, so that they can at least have a frame of reference for a lot of these cults. Folks, it's been interesting, get online and ask me about what's the cost of rent, moving to a Belize, and it leads me to wonder if people are taking the time to research something basic. If you move to any neighborhood, you would check out the realtors, right? In the neighborhood. And then also, if you're asking random people online, if you haven't cultivated, first of all, relationships or agreements of trust, then once again, if you're just asking random people, you're asking to get got. So then also, there's a tone sometimes of people actually, which is very interesting with our folks, a lot of black folks, with a very demanding tone sometimes, asking folks for information. Now, keep in mind, I and my family were in a cult. It was very traumatic. I've been here for several years. So there is a whole lot of time, energy, and life experience over here. No one has really put forth or demonstrated any care or concern, and any concern other than really not much tangible concern for our safety, which would be demonstrated by investigation, not just throwing a couple of words around. No one's concerned about how we're eating or our safety or our livelihood, but people come making demands about they want to know just how they can find some places cheap to live, or something, a better deal than what they're getting in the States. And so I must state again that my primary reason for sharing information is for educational purposes. So someone that's looking for land and other things like that, that's a whole nother conversation. And again, unless people want to get scammed, which is very likely, many people will get scammed going to another country, because you're going into an environment where you don't have relationships with the people, relationships of trust or any kind of agreement. And if you go looking to do everything, which maybe it's a stateside mentality, as cheap as possible, and the folks in the country where you're looking to go to, whether that's Africa or Honduras or Costa Rica, or if you're dealing with Mayan people who don't have the same economy and have a different value system. So if you come in and you're flashing and you're throwing your money around, and if you have an attitude of, well, I got the money to pay for this and that, you're going to get got. And I can't say it's wrong of these people that they need to eat too. There are people already living in the places where you are trying to go to. And if you don't have any concern for the people and the populations that are there, then why should they have concern for you? Because already you don't have relationships with those people. And there are some people that even approach some of these cult members thinking that they're going to get in or get the know. And so people covet information, and they're trying to also protect their own territory. If it's their pipeline to get hookups for paperwork, immigration, so that the heat stays off their back as they run amok and try to make a space and get first dibs on people resources and other resources in that area. They feel like the cult leader has staked claim first. So these are just things that I think, or that I'm observing that many folks from the States are ignorant of. If you come here flashing money around and the people that are here are not eating, you're going to run into some issues. And again, I'm emphasizing that most likely you're going to get scammed. You're not going to come into a country, I don't observe, you could try your luck and get something for nothing. And nor would that even make sense, because the people, again, that are here were here first. They're indigenous populations. For instance, there's Creole, there's Mestizo, there's Garifuna, um, there's expats. There's all kind of people here that have paved their way. They have generations of families. So just to think that you can come um, and throw your money around, you're asking to get got, whether that's from a cult leader or other folks that are trying to eat. This could be in Central America. This can be in Africa. This can be anywhere. You're looking to get got. So again, this information is put out so that women and mothers and young adults can educate themselves, right? So people are looking for cheap land, not even understanding the process of the land, and not having a respect for the process, not having a respect for the time that it takes to do research, to find places to live, safe places to live, who are going to be your neighbors. That whole thing is a process. And also being in the States, I think we've gotten a sense of entitlement, that just because you have money, that you are entitled to certain information. So that can really put you, and most likely will put you really in a situation. People have many illusions and delusions, and some of what these cult members are going to tell you is the truth, just like with the Bible and all these religious books. There is a large degree of truth in there. The catch or the distinction is that the truth will be manipulated. And if you do not have a frame of reference, for example, tangibly, if you don't have a frame of reference for the environment, the economy, the climate, the natural disasters, if you don't have any cultivated relationships of trust, most likely you're ill prepared. It's not just about everything is not about money. Money is relevant, and you're going to pay with life energy for the information and resources that you want, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. But if we come with an how can I say, arrogance of just throwing your money around. There's some things, even though with all the scamming, there are some things that money can't buy. And what I'm saying, if you come with a certain kind of arrogance, people are going to make you pay. We can have a tendency to have a sense of entitlement coming from the States. And money is a reality. It's a tool, but it's more to it than just the money. And let me see how I can express this. People's priorities and their values is what often is going to make folks vulnerable. For example, again, there's nothing wrong with looking for a good value on land, as long as you make sure that the people that you're purchasing from are compensated, and whoever the realtor is compensated. But just thinking you can find somebody online and that they're just going to give you this information. I mean, I've heard sort of different things come out of people's mouths. People from the States are looking to get got. And so I would encourage people, and just a reality check, relationships of trust. And I would not even, greetings, tour, greetings in South Korea. What brings you to the page? I'm curious, what would make you look on this particular page if you're from South Korea? And are you South Korean? Your name is Na Boy. Okay, if your name is Na Boy, greetings. Well, Na Boy, or whoever else is watching this live, you're from South Korea, but right now, what I'm just sharing about is getting scammed in the tropics. It means I'm boy. Okay, so maybe you're just looking around, Na Boy, online, but this is actually about being scammed. So I don't know if you'd care to share what kind of scams people, what's happening with people in South Korea. As people may have fantasies. I don't know that Korea is top on the list of places people want to go to get away. I don't think many people are trying to get to North or South Korea, but maybe you can share, and perhaps you can share about the cults, if there are any cults in South Korea, because that's what we're looking at. So anybody, whether you're from South Korea or Brooklyn or the States or any cold environment, many people are looking for an escape, for a yoga community or a New Age community or cultural community in the tropics. Okay. So, yeah, people have these illusions that because people, for example, use the term, and I've mentioned this before, drop the terms like brother and sister and natural. It's like looking today, you go into a supermarket and they use the word all natural or brown rice or natural, and meanwhile, it's been processed to death. It's been processed to death, and it's not really a food anymore. That's the same way that the tropics is being touted to people. So people want to think that they can eat all these fatty protein bars and junk food. It's a picture of real food on the box, but it's really a processed junk food, and they put the label organic, and people are spending 10 times the amount because actually sometimes we're trying to get something for nothing or to trying to shortcut the process. And whether that's intentional or unintentional, some people may be looking to get over, and there are many people that may genuinely want to be with people they feel like they can trust, with a trustworthy community. But I definitely can say from experience that it takes a while to cultivate relationships with people, and just to throw people into, and this was really a butt-kicking lesson, to throw people into the pedestal, put them on the pedestal of brother or sister or elder because they have an outfit on, or just because they are a mother, without knowing their character or their track record. That's you're asking to get got. And again, that was very heartbreaking and very sobering. That was a humongous wake-up call. And these are things sometimes I think with our religious programming, it's really hard to wrap. It's hard to wrap your mind around. You just can't believe that you're getting scammed by somebody that's a mother or that's going to turn the blind eye. But this is, you can see this now on the internet. Some people are just more savvy at hiding it than others. So it would be advisable for folks to have clear agreements, and that there are consequences. There will be consequences for breaches of agreement, and should the agreement not work out as both parties had planned for, that one, you have an exit plan, and you have clear agreements should you decide to part ways. This is one of the areas most people overlook, and again, this can even apply to people's relationships. Yeah. So so the terms of sister, empress, goddess, I would say, in my humble observation, more effective and more effective, something that could go more of a longer way than to help you folks out, would be responsibility and respect, because that's when those labels and those terms are going to wear real thin real quick. It's easy to say our birthright, is basically esteem, right? We use these terms to honor and to give acknowledgement of, esteem. Because we're not treated with a lot of respect as a people, and particularly as women. But just because someone uses the term empress or goddess or sister, that doesn't mean they're not going to scam you. That doesn't mean they're not going to exploit you sexually, which is likely the case if you have not vouched for their character, and if there's no literal track record, which cannot go merely by words. It takes a while to get to know people, and still you don't know people. So you have to have clear agreements in order to protect yourself. There are many men that are coming to the tropics and other countries looking for a cheap wife or cheap yanni. It's cheap, where the standard is less, or there won't be many requirements, or they won't be cross-referenced. So I mean, that's a reality, and people are looking where they don't have to do much work. They just don't have to do much of anything to impress people. So I really caution folks about these cults, or part of the allure of going to the church or to one of these cult groups, is that you're going to find a good man when you get there. I mean, look at the result. That's not enough of a litmus test. Folks, you got to come up with enough of your litmus test, because just thinking you're all reading the same Bible, people being exploited with all these religious books. So just because you're reading the same religious book, that does not mean you have the same value system and some basics. If people are not taking care of their children, their previous children, what makes you think, and if reading that same book, what makes you think they're going to take care of the children that you should have? If people weren't practicing safe sex, and disease prevention with the previous people they're with, what makes you think because you're reading the same book that they're all of a sudden going to start engaging these practices? I don't know English, but God will feel for your good people. Yeah. So take care. So yeah, if somebody is not demonstrating character and morals and basically responsibility and respect, I'll boil it down to two things. If somebody is not demonstrating responsibility, paying their bills, cleaning up their mess, sticking through with the decisions that they've made and dealing with the consequences of decisions they've made and the people that they have affected, because they all of a sudden pick up a book, that's not a guarantee that now all of a sudden they're a changed person. Anybody can say the words, but what's going to be your litmus test for this person has changed? People can change. Many people don't when they don't have to. Some people change when it's a near-death experience. But just because somebody shows you different pictures, that does not mean that their character has changed. And this is something women really have to get. And then for men folks, just because somebody has a pretty face and lots of makeup on, that does not mean that they have good character. And we're going for people that superficially, we're not even vetting people. We're looking at people superficially or listening to their talents or lulled to sleep by their singing voice or looking at their muscles or their hair or their eye color. And this is part of where we're getting got, or that the rhetoric sounds so good or it sounds so true. But you have not seen people under stress, when resources are thin, when you're in an isolated environment, when they're not scripted and no one is watching. So I encourage you folks to please be careful, especially young women looking for a way out, looking for a good quality man. You'd be better off putting the work towards you. And yes, the sad reality is many folks may not find a mate. I'm not encouraging people to go to this camp or that camp. But when being very, very desperate and needy is part of what will get you, it will get you got. So it's for us to be responsible for our own lives. Putting your life into the hands of a guru, a teacher, someone that says they eat just because they eat fruits and vegetables. You don't know these people and you don't know their character. So to sum it up, the tropics is not the place of eternal vacation. Because even the folks that have businesses, everybody works. There's always some kind of work to be done somewhere. So this is not the land of eternal vacation. And if folks were in the garden growing some food, there wouldn't be as much time to be on the internet. Because if I look around, I have to go do some weeding because there's it's rainy season and the weeds come up quickly, whether rainy season or dry season. And I gotta water more often when we go into the dry season. So free fruit. There's not endless free fruit. You can't go onto necessarily people's land or you will get shot. It's private property in many areas. So just thinking you're going to come from the States, come here and just pick fruit like it's abundant, that doesn't even make any sense. Where's the responsibility in that? And where's even the respect for what it takes to weed the land, take care of the land? Somebody's paying land taxes. There are many people that buy land and they may not even be on the land and they may be traveling somewhere else. So no, there's not endless free fruit. Try asking the people that already live there. Getting land for pennies. Okay, even if you get some land that's inexpensive, you have the taxes. Are you willing to buy the different kinds of tools that it will take to farm the land? Are you willing to get your nails dirty? Get your hairstyle sweated out? Whether that's on a big tract. Are you looking to sell that food and export it overseas? Have you researched any of those markets? So land for pennies, you have to look at all the hidden costs in terms of people, resources, and what is it you really want to do. So it really takes something, research and due diligence if somebody's looking to relocate. So when people come online and they're just throwing these things about prices and throwing their dollars around, it's not enough, and it will demonstrate to people in the country, it demonstrates a level of ignorance. Because somebody has to do that footwork for you. They're going to charge you and or scam you. Sex with no consequences. I mean, come on, look at the Sudan, look at lots of Africa. I don't think people are really realistically looking. Guatemala, Honduras, even here in Belize. Does anybody research teen pregnancies or rates of disease or the crime rates in different areas of Belize? Try researching the crime rate in Belize, which is per capita is known as one of the murder capitals of the world. So it's a small country, and that's just one area. I mean, I'm sure we got murder capitals in all over the planet, depending on what context you want to put it in. But there's murder and crime and gangs and all kind of stuff and guns all over this globe. So again, folks need to do due diligence, and if anything, get fit and get healthy. So if you can garden and farm your land, and so you can defend yourself and take care of yourself, and also so you can take the heat. And then the other thing is that to think that you don't have to pay for the decisions of your past because you're coming to the tropics. I mean, many people travel. Even when I worked for the travel industry years ago, and there are many people that wanted to travel just to get on the plane and get away and not have to think about anything. But as you soon discover, when you get to the next destination, and sometimes you're going through so many different destinations, you have to be like, wow, where am I? Because when you open up the suitcase, you're right there with yourself. So basically, you're just taking your show on the road into different environments. And other people may not take too kindly to your cultural values. So just because you go to another location doesn't mean you don't have children back home or bills back home or a light bill, a gas bill, or bicycle violation tickets or train tickets that you don't have to pay for. And what is it? What do they call it? There's a term. I can't think of the term. It escapes me right now. But when you go overseas, just leave you folks with a little FYI. There are records where they do track you internationally when you're going in and out of these different countries. So, folks, there are ways that people can track you down for your school bills, and can track you down your police records, particularly if you want to stay over a certain amount of time, your crime history. Many people might be late and not check, but there are government authorities that can check, at least to some degree, some of your bill records and bill payment records and crime records if you have committed major crimes. By the same token, there are many people that slide underneath the radar in other countries because con artists are very savvy, as I learned from Joseph Robinson, aka self-proclaimed Earth Solar Messiah. So don't believe the hype, folks. For folks that have Caribbean friends or Caribbean or African family members and have married in or whatever, this stuff is not new. There's so much stuff that's being repackaged. It's like somebody repackaging you and selling you back yourself. Human beings are human beings anywhere you go on the planet, and there are trade-offs in the tropics or if you're in the cold. There's certain resources that you have available to you in the tropics that some people don't have available, or certain things you have access to in the States that certain people in other countries may not have access to. So there are trade-offs wherever you go. So if you take your time and not be pressured to move in a sense of fear or urgency, you're more likely to make a more calculated decision. And should things not turn out the way that you want, you can cultivate some backup plans. There's really no escaping the work. I would say big red flag for anyone tells you you can get something for nothing or that you can escape the work. So yeah, this is the tropics. It's trade-offs just like it is. I may not have freezing hands over here, but there's flooding. There's other things in other parts of the world. There's hurricanes. You may not have the insurance. Many people don't have insurance if the roof gets blown off of your house. So if it's just you going solo because you got all your money, your stuff gets destroyed. You don't have relationships with the people that are here. You didn't make sure they ate. They may not help you put your roof back on. So it's a big planet out there. It's our responsibility and respect. Two main things: responsibility and respect. It's our responsibility to do due diligence and to check the character of people and to check the environments that we're going into, and not romanticize the tropics or romanticize any of these groups. These are all just flawed human beings that are selling you stuff, and people online are not going to show you the ugly stuff. They're not going to show you the fights. They're not going to show you the contradictions. They're not going to show when their money is tight and, you know, how they're not going to show you all this stuff. Why should they? That's not attractive, and nobody wants to see that. So hopefully this is helpful, and a young person or a young adult or somebody that's romanticizing about the tropics can take their time, put their emotions to the side, and vet everyone in the environments that you're looking to go into, and not be in a fantasy land, or you're going to get screwed. Be careful of blind people, blind men with 5 mates, talking about the Earth Solar Messiah and touting off that, you know, because they eat fruits and vegetables, that they're necessarily better people. You know, some people might be eating chicken legs, but they might have, you know, a whole other kind of integrity. You know, at least they might be more upfront about eating their chicken legs than the raw food is. All right, then. Take care.